Welcome to 34 Stronger Together. I'm your host, Eric Johnson, the Executive Director of the Fillmore County Development Corporation. And basically, as the podcast suggested, 34 Stronger Together, we take a look at the unique things, the people, the places, the businesses that make Fillmore County great. And this next story really catches a person's ear, a local connection. It's actually a business that has made such a great impact. And joining me to talk about none other than Greg's Market in downtown Exeter is Mitchell Schlegelmilch. Mitch, thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, so talking about a unique story indeed, Greg's Market. It just you go by and it's just like any other grocery store. This one has a unique connection. Tell us a little bit about why Greg's Market is so important right now, not only in Exeter but the surrounding communities.
I appreciate that. So yeah, Greg's Market has been quite an interesting journey from the time when I got involved with it. If we go back a few years, it was Greg Yount who was the owner and operator, second generation of the grocery store, was kind of nearing that a deciding point within his career. He was kind of on a well, he just had to make some decisions about whether he was going to be able to continue to invest into the business or if it was time to make a change. And he made a decision for the best of his family that it would, we need to do something different. But he also understood the need for the grocery store to be in town, not only just because, you know, residents of the community need to have resources available, but the importance that it also benefits other businesses within the community. And because anytime you see a business fail, it doesn't just hurt a small portion of folks. It has a ripple effect, if you will. And so he, rather than just shutting down and closing the doors and moving on, he started talking to some folks and said, I have a need for change. And some of the community folks um, started just kind of started having some meetings just to talk about what are the options, some of the things that we could do to continue this on. And honestly, I wasn't ever even a part of those conversations. I was kind of oblivious to what was going on until later on they had an open meeting that they were looking to form some sort of LLC or some sort of corporation to where we could ask folks to give towards a business, basically purchase this business and then try to keep it going and operating as an LLC, or somehow figure out just how to keep the doors open and, kind of run it from a community involved, community ran organization. So it was definitely a learning curve for us. We learned some things, sometimes on the hard way, but everything we learned was progress for us. And so we were able to form the Exeter Investors LLC, and from there we were able to purchase the store from Greg and all the inventory, and he was able to kind of wipe his hands clean of it, but also had peace of mind that here we go, we're still going to have a grocery store within our community. And where I come into the play is I tell people I had just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I was working to finish up my master's degree through Wayne State. I had one more course. It was a marketing course, and I needed to create a business plan for an organization. And I thought, what better than to assist this Exeter Investors Group, because they also needed a business plan. I think they're for liquor licenses and other reasons. There was a need. There was a business need for this. And so I thought, hey, I'll pitch in and lend a hand. And then at our inaugural meeting, they had elected board members, which I was nominated along with a handful of other folks. And then they were gracious enough to nominate me as board president. And so that's just kind of where it took off. So And I was excited and I was eager for it because we're in it. We're in this together, and we're stronger together. Exactly like what we're here to talk about today. And so, fast forward to, well, I'll just say, first year was rocky, because we were just kind of learning. Um, Luckily, we had Becky Bigelow, who had worked in the store for a number of years, a few others that knew the operation, knew how things work, and they're really the ones that continue to keep it going. We'd be lost without them because we're kind of on the sideline pretending to be head coaches, but we really didn't know what we were doing. The players actually are making it happen, and and then throw in a pandemic right out of the chute. It was kind of, how do we navigate these waters that absolutely nobody knew how to navigate those waters, but we continue to go down it. Um, so with all that, first year, I believe we we lost $3, and we were ecstatic because not knowing what we were getting into, our goal every year was to break even. We just want to make sure we maintain sales enough to cover costs and any unexpected expenses that may arise. Um, First year was good. Second year was even better. We made a couple $1,000s by the end of the year. And this was all while equipment breakdowns, challenges within, you know, all of our utility costs were going up. Everything, it was difficult. Like I said, we really didn't know what we were getting into, and so we were luckily just all in it together. Um, and so we felt, first couple of years, as challenging as they were, we felt pretty successful. Now you fast forward to the third, fourth year, things, I don't want to say decline, but our sales were declining. A lot
Now,
of things
is
out of
that
our control.
with the economy and all that stuff and the
Yeah.
way the state and the government was kind of working? Did that obviously didn't help you guys, did it?
Right. No, it did not. And being a small market, our profit margins are we don't have a lot of wiggle room, and it's very difficult to, well, it's not difficult, it's impossible to compete with the big box stores, if you will, because when they purchase in such large quantities, they get so much better pricing than we do. And excuse me, we really have a set margin that we identify the margins for each category depending on what the product is. And we need to sell product at that margin to be able to break even. And when you're not selling as much product, or the product now is inflated costs, it it causes some challenges. And then within that, you still have an old facility with a lot of old equipment. But we knew we needed to continue to invest within our organization because, one, we had a very manual process where you had to enter prices for each individual item. With that comes human error, no trackability. There was really no way to understand where we were from a dollars perspective. Um, so we made the decision to move forward with an investment into a scanning system. Worked with our folks within Geneva at the grocery store there. What kind of system do you have? Do you like this? What are the pros and cons? Ryan Steiner was a great asset for me. Reached out to him a number of times and kind of helped guide me, basically get to where they were. That's what we did. We went down the same road, worked with the same folks. Um, and so we were able to get that implemented, and all while knowing we were struggling a little bit on the backside. There had to be a turning point. We knew that, okay, once we get to the certain point where we get everything in place and we get everything working and all the kinks worked out, things should turn around, because the most expensive costs to any business are people and property. When we invested in the property, we have a lot of new equipment, and our people, we no longer, now with the new scanning system, we don't have to have 3 or 4 people putting away a truck, resupply truck, because everything comes in and marked, everything is barcoded, everything, all prices are updated automatically, and so that we knew we were going to be able to reduce costs there, and we seen that. But as we were investing in ourselves and the people and property, our reserve fund was drastically reducing, and we had money set aside for the rainy day fund, if you will. Like, we don't want to touch it, but in case something happens, it's here. Well, those reserves started dwindling, and some of our biggest challenges through the year are those months where you have an extra week. So most months you say, okay, you've got the 4 week, we have 4 pay periods, we have 4 resupply truck routes. You throw a 5th week in there, and that costs of that payroll expense and that, the distribution costs, the freight costs, everything, it throws our budget completely out of whack. So that was making us nervous, and we got down to the point where I think we need to ask our community for help. I struggled with that greatly, because here we already had a number of investors invest into this organization, and here we're going to go back out and ask them for more. And so I was really nervous and hesitant about doing that. And so our board, we talked about it numerous times, and we finally came to the decision that we can't do this without asking. We have to, because one of the things that we've made clear from the beginning is, as soon as we have to start borrowing money to continue this business going, then we know it's inevitable. We're not going to be able to continue to go. And
Well,
so
let me ask you this here. Sorry to interrupt, but so a two-part question, I guess. One, did the group of individuals, your board, um, were they going to get, as they put forth the effort, were they going to get something in return? I guess, did they assume that that probably wasn't going to happen? And I guess, and two, did you have a contingency plan if the community or communities didn't respond the way they did?
So the first question of that, none of us have ever expected anything back.
Okay.
I share a funny story with I was interviewed by the state patrol for the liquor license, before we even got out of the chute, and it was a longer interview than I thought it was gonna be, because he kept asking question after question, and he kept coming back to, what are you gaining out of this? Like, how are you getting paid for what you're doing? And it was like, we're not. We're just doing this because we see a need to keep this business going within our community. We have to. And so none of us have gained anything other than knowing our grocery store is still operating within the community. So it's just part of that giving back. The small
Mm-hmm.
town, everybody knows things don't happen without people doing extra.
Amen.
And so it gets overwhelming at times. I'll tell you, when we've had some fun conversations about how do we handle this and what do we move forward, and it's a lot of times at night, it's like, what did I get myself into? But the next morning you're like, I'm doing this for the right reasons, and I care about these people, and we have such great employees. And I tell them all the time. We had a board meeting yesterday, and I told them, and kind of to answer the second part of that question, our community wants us here, because after we kind of sent out this mercy call and said we need help, donations came in great. And I am comfortable for the next foreseeable future, and I'm talking 3 to 5 years, unless there's any unforeseeable conditions that change that. I said my only concerns are making sure we have our people, because our people are really is what keeps this going. Because if we don't have our people there, we're shutting the doors, because how do you operate a grocery store without employees? It's no
Exactly.
different than the restaurant that doesn't have employees and they can't cook the burgers to serve you the burgers because they don't have the people. So it really all comes down to people. The people in our community, they showed up again and said, we do understand the importance of this. Um, they were able to give monetary donations. We had folks from throughout the county, businesses that said, we'll donate a certain portion of our profits and we'll purchase gift cards, or, there was a number of different things that really, it was just a good, warm, fuzzy feeling that you got that, what, people do care, people do want to see us here. And then the biggest result of that was we just had one of the biggest sales months. I think there's only one other month in the last 4 years that we had a larger sales for the month. And so people seen the need, they heard the need, they came in and they shopped and they bought groceries, and that's what we need. I mean, as long as we continue to have the support of the customers buying the product, we'll be fine. But I understand the need, or there are times when it's just more convenient to, while I'm driving by the big box store, I'm just going to stop in there and get this one thing I need. And then before you know it, you've got $200 worth of things that you maybe didn't need that day, but you seen it and it was there and it was cheaper than maybe what you're used to paying. So it's, our community's there for us, and we're going to be fine. Because it's of the people. It really, that's what it all comes down to. Right now, I feel better and I feel stronger than I have in the last 4 years. After our meeting yesterday and talking about some of the things, we're not done yet. Okay, yeah, we have a little cushion here, and we're feeling okay about where we are. Sales are good. Profit margins are finally, we know we've been able to, with this new system, we can drill down into the details and we can start pinpointing the positives and the negatives, and we can start figuring out what it is we need to work on and what's working well and what's not working so well. And so that has been, helps us leaps and bounds to go forward and know what to do next. And one of the things we talked about yesterday, and I wanted to express it here, was I just sent out a message to a handful of folks this morning, asking to see if they would commit an hour of their time. So they may or may not be investors. They may or may not even be consumers or customers of the store, but we know they live in town and we want to hear from them. And so we want to create small focus groups, is what we're calling them, and get those folks together and just have a brainstorm and just say, without any board member guiding them or telling them what we want them to hear. I mean, this is truly sit them in a room and start writing notes down on what you think we can do to better ourselves for you, better ourselves for the community, and really whatever we can do to become more sustainable. Luckily, I've had a number of responses that have said, yes, I'll be involved with that. And so with that, then we're going to be able to take more initiatives to, look at things that the people want. Because without the people, what do we have? Nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
So I'm looking forward to
exactly
that.
right. Yeah, just because the fact that you're thriving based on community involvement, and first and foremost, put me on that list as well. I'll be more than happy to drum up ideas with you guys. It's so outstanding to see the compassion and care that goes on. And I not only talk about the Exeter community, but around, because you got to realize there's a lot of rural area in between Exeter. You get down to Milligan, you get over to Fairmont, who does not have the luxuries and the opportunities like Exeter does. And to see it and present itself going, hey, this town cares, and it shows the fact that you put a little little hard work in, and this thing's going to last forever. And it's a compliment to all you guys, so kudos to you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a lot of a lot of work at times, but it really has been satisfying to be able to go through this and enjoy what we've been able to put together. So, man, a lot of relationships built, like you said, not just within our board or the store, but working with the other community, because we're we're not unique in our challenges. You talk to the store in Geneva, Shickley, Friend, all of our area communities, Utica, we're all on the same boat. And so
Mm.
we're all working together to try to figure out what others are doing to improve and sustain. Kendra Oldehoff is part of, I believe it's like a rural grocery store peer group where they get together periodically and they just talk about some of the things. And it was interesting, and I wanted to talk about this because just to see the reaction of our board members yesterday and the diverse reactions. So Kendra was sharing that at their last meeting, they were talking about a rural grocery store in Minnesota and how it's basically you have a membership to this grocery store and you go in, it's accessible 24/7. So you scan your badge, the door opens, you go in, you get your groceries, you leave. It's 100% self-managed, if you will. I mean, obviously you still have to have employees and they still have operating hours where they have folks there, but the accessibility at 24/7. It was funny to see some people in our group just sit back and say, oh, that would never work. How would we ever do that? But you think about how much technology that has come to be over the course of time and how many things we said would never happen, or how could that ever happen? And I used the example of my cell phone. Did anybody ever think we'd have the capability of what we do with a cell phone that we do today, being able to access a 24/7 accessible grocery store? Doesn't seem impossible at all to me. So, I mean, obviously, we're not going to shift over to that tomorrow or anytime in the near future because that would take quite a bit. But it's those ideas and those thoughts that we share and then we start to grow upon. And it helps me know that we're going to continue to improve and we're going to continue to find ways to get better and be there for our community. So it was funny. We had fun with it yesterday because the the I don't want to say naysayers, but the ones that, for me, what motivates me most is when I hear you can't do that. That's when I say,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
hold my beer.
Yeah,
Watch.
exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Uh,
You can't, you can. You just choose not to.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So a
So it,
lot of great things still to come and a lot of new things and new aspirations that we're looking forward to. And seeing people come in and purchasing groceries from us, it it's our overall well-being. I mean, that's it. That's what it comes down to. We got to have the customers.
yeah, and you speak about a lot of the trials and tribulations, and we kind of touched it on the government and how that's been. I mean, overall, I mean, without going into any nitty gritty, I guess the state and federal and all that. I mean, the government wise, in a whole, has that been any more looser in regards with the regulations and all that stuff for you guys and your daily operations, or in grocery stores as a whole?
It hasn't. I mean, there's nothing worse today or better today than it was when we first got into it. You know, we had to go through quite a bit of hoops just to get going. You know,
Mhm.
just a lot of your inspections and whatnot. Really, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that's causing us any more pain. One of a On a positive note, it didn't go through the legislative bill, or it was a legislative bill introduced last year. It did not get passed or didn't move forward, but it was to try and provide financial support for rural grocery stores. There was a number of expectations or things that you had to qualify for, and Greg's Market was in there. If had things moved forward, um, we would have fallen into that category. And so what I'm hoping is that gets reintroduced next year, because we started seeing momentum. It was gaining momentum pretty quickly, and then I think unfortunately the government is their worst enemy, because they get too much. You can only handle so much, and our legislative sessions aren't. There's just not enough time to get everything accomplished, and then how things get prioritized. A rural grocery store funding isn't necessarily at the top priority list for a number of folks. But it was nice to hear that there was support for that, and a number of us went and testified at the Capitol, and they heard us. A number of senators afterwards even talked to me and said, "I appreciate you coming here today, because it's not just Greg's Market in Exeter, Nebraska. It's every grocery store within the state and surrounding states." So it's a positive note. Nothing happened yet, but I'm hoping that maybe someday it will.
Yeah, and I was kind of curious about that because you put a lot of effort into there, and it was a good thought to have. But with opportunities like that going on the wayside, I guess, is there anything like small businesses, not only yourselves, can do, but uh to find some reassurance, or to find some opportunity to grow, like say the pandemic, like we were talking about, taking said steps that you guys implemented, like not only yourselves but other grocery stores during the pandemic. Has any of those been utilized as probably more permanent opportunities going forward?
Nothing that I can think of as a permanent basis, but I will share one thing that we did discuss yesterday at our board meeting was trying to find those other entities that have a niche. So there's a number. So Greg's Market, I would say one of our well-known items is the bakery. We have everybody loves the Greg's rolls, the Kaiser rolls. So we have a niche there. Um, I'll say Bruning, the store in Bruning, they're well known for their meats. And we talked a lot about how can we form some sort of partnership to be able to utilize each other, and help each other. Maybe not necessarily our customers going to their store, but how about their product being sold in our store and vice versa? So we brainstormed a little bit. We don't have any initiative at this point, but nothing's off the table. And and we're welcome to hear if others have ideas. One thing that does come to mind, we have a produce section that's actually, I'll say, homegrown produce that this vendor comes in and provides their product into our store, and then we only pay them for what is sold. We have a margin that we get, and it's a really great program because it doesn't cost us anything, and we're hoping to help them sell their product. And if we sell it, they benefit from the sale, and then we benefit from our portion of the profit. So those kind of things we're always willing to learn more about, and if there's opportunities out there that folks are aware of, we're all ears. I mean, please come and talk to us.
When do you guys normally meet up? I mean, is there opportunities where individuals or business owners can come in and just sit in at any of your guys' meetings?
Yep. So we try to stay on a schedule, but with life and everything. So we have a board of 6 folks. Um, Half of us still have school in either elementary, junior high, or high school. And so there's always activities to try and schedule around. We like to schedule for the first Tuesday or the second Tuesday of every month is our regularly scheduled board meeting. meeting. And so next month already throws a wrench into that. Um, September 24th is actually going to be our next board meeting, just because it was the first open date that we all had. And but we do, I mean, we have the capability of phoning in, or folks want to join remotely, we can do that. But if there's nothing, there's no reason that I can think of that we wouldn't be open to folks from the public coming in, or businesses, or we're not opposed to any of that. We don't have anything to hide. I mean, we're as open as we can be. I mean, because again, it, we're in this together. It truly is a community owned business. And so, if people have questions, I usually get the phone calls, and it always turns into a very lengthy conversation, because once I start getting those questions and then we start talking, it's amazing how much you can find out from each other. So I highly encourage that. I 100% support that. If
We're talking
anybody's
here
ever,
with Mitchell. It is 34 Stronger Together. Our topic today is talking about Greg's Market in Exeter, a grocery store, the little store that could, and is still chugging away to this day. And Mitchell, it's for you and the collective and the public seeing this store uh come forth, from Greg and Jackie, moving on and giving you guys an opportunity. You've got so many highs, so many lows. I mean, we know as a business owner, the end all is, like you said, to maintain the course, as they say. But for you personally, seeing this develop and follow along its path, tell me some of the feelings that you got to experience. I mean, going through the pandemic, surviving the pandemic, I guess, on the other end too, and still thriving.
yeah, I don't know that there was a feeling I didn't feel. There was happiness, there was anger, there was sadness, there was fear. The fear is what I think probably was the best feeling, just because I didn't want us to fail, and we were going to do anything we could to continue on. And that fear drives us, and that fear that I felt was, we can't let these people down. But not knowing what was coming around the corner, and like I said, trying to navigate these waters that nobody had ever been through, that was scary times for me. But the relationships that I have built, and we have all built, there's even members of the board folks that I had not known that well. You know of these people, but you don't know them. And growing the relationships, and really just, it's a good feeling. It really, at the end of the day, we felt every emotion that you possibly could. And the thing that got us to where we are, things that I've tried to communicate, is we are in this together. So we got to do whatever we can to make it work. And it's, like you said, we're still chugging along. So that feels
And
good.
and not only, and kind of tag along from that question then too, now all of a sudden now you have doors open where businesses and people countywide, regional wide, are not only here for support, here for guidance, here for a friendly ear. That's got to feel even better too, knowing that, hey, it's not a do all, we're not dying alone. This is big.
Yep, absolutely. And we can share the do's and don'ts. We can say, well, this is what we did, but we don't recommend you do this. So we have some of those learning experiences, and really, we took a leap of faith. I mean, because like I said, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what we were getting into. But luckily, the people that had worked in the store were able to keep it going. And that, I continue. I cannot say that enough, how much I appreciate the employees we have, because without them, I mean, I should say, we all did this together. Um, but there's some MVPs out there, if you will. There's the ones that really kept things going. So yeah, and now anything we can do to help each other out, that's what I'm looking forward to.